Entrepreneurship and small business management. The franchisee. Objectives. After viewing this presentation, you should be able to explain the considerations for the franchisee in buying a franchise. Second, evaluate the pros and cons for the franchisee in the franchising process. And third, describe the type of franchising fees. First of all, the franchisee defined. The franchisee buys an existing business method or way of doing business from the seller, who is the franchisor. The franchisee might also purchase the right to sell a franchisor's product. Buying a franchise. It's advised that the franchisee researches the existing franchise outlets, especially those mentioned in Section 20 of the Franchise Disclosure Agreement. Talk about that a little later. And that the franchisee visits those outlets to see how they're working in practice. It's also recommended that the franchisee meets with a specialist in the industry, especially a franchise attorney. Once they've had that meeting with the franchise attorney, they are equipped to meet with the franchisor, and they should discuss the franchise disclosure agreement. In that agreement, it's possible to check the franchisor's references and find out why certain franchisees have chosen to quit the business. Then you should review all documents with your attorney, sign if you are still wanting to go ahead, and then launch and open the franchise. Question: all of the following are recommended to the franchisee in buying a franchise, except first, research Section 20 of the Franchise Disclosure Agreement. Second, visit outlets. Third, meet with a franchise attorney. Fourth, meet with a franchisor. Or fifth, discuss with family. Advantages for the franchisee. Well, the franchisee should receive training and support in how to operate the business model of the franchisor. That the standardization of product is going to help so that there's no variations in the product that the franchisee has to learn. Operating several different production lines might not be necessary. The franchisor is going to provide some advertising to the franchisee, usually, if that's in the agreement. And the franchisee can benefit from increased negotiating power because they are aligned with the franchisor, so that when they negotiate for finance or advertising or supplier agreements, they gain some credibility by being aligned with the franchisor. Some advantages for the franchisee continued. The franchisor might provide finance, especially when starting the business, when finance is very scarce. Supposedly the franchise is a proven business model. In other words, it has actually worked before. And the franchisor is going to offer, hopefully, site selection, including territorial protection. In other words, making sure that there's no franchises of the same name in the area that you are going to be trading in. Franchising provides a growth strategy for the franchisee in that if the existing franchise is successful for the franchisee, they can buy another one from the same franchisor. And finally, agency theory. In other words, owning a franchise as a franchisee is more motivating than working for someone else as a hired manager. Question: all of the following are advantages to a franchisee except: first, franchisor offers training and support; second, franchisor helps in advertising; third, increased negotiating power from the franchisor; or fourth, franchisor covers the first 2 years of losses. Here's some disadvantages for the franchisee. First, it's a very expensive way of opening a business. You have to pay royalties on sales of products that the franchisor owns, and also fees for operating the business model of the franchisor. Standardization can be restraining and constraining. You're going to have to purchase supplies from the franchisor and also product lines. You can't vary from the product line of the franchisor. Thirdly, you may be going into a franchise which is already saturated. McDonald's springs to mind that it's very common to see the golden arches in many different places. It does beg the question, is McDonald's as a franchise part of a saturated market? Make sure that you look at the termination or transfer arrangements for a franchise, because it might be that you're in it for the long term when really you want to get out, and you want to look for ways of being able to transfer the franchise if you want to get out. It's certainly still a risk. There's some very fraudulent franchises out there. Will the franchisor follow through with things like finance? And also, there still is a risk of failure. There's also a risk of bad publicity from other franchisees in the way they operate. It might rub off or reflect on you as a franchise. Here's some fees that you might have to pay, courtesy of Barringer and Ireland. You've got the first initial fees to pay for buying the franchise. Then you've got capital fees for buying capital equipment such as premises and equipment. Then you've got a continuing royalty, in other words, a percentage of weekly or monthly gross income that is paid to the franchisor. You might have to pay into the franchisor's advertising fund, and then there's miscellaneous fees such as paying for training and management expertise, etc. Thank you for viewing and listening to this presentation. I hope to see you in a future presentation. Thank you.